Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this session of LinkedIn Connection, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with the Daniel Alfon, who is the LinkedIn specialist, author, and speaker. Daniel is an author of a Build a LinkedIn Profile for a Business Success. He has joined LinkedIn in early 2004 and published articles, interviews, and exclusive content about advanced LinkedIn strategies to the client and subscribe to his website. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. Daniel, the stage is yours.
Well, Urvashi, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be part of the Tech Job Fairs in Israel, and I'd like you to ask yourself a question during this presentation about LinkedIn connections. The question is, who should you connect with as a talent and as a job seeker? We'll also mention recruiters and when should you connect, and maybe we'll take some Q&A. So there are two ways for us as job seekers to leverage the platform. One is the regular way. That means you go to LinkedIn's jobs, you apply, and you wait. What usually happens is nothing. Your application, your CV, your LinkedIn profile goes to a digital black hole. But there's also another way, and that is what I'll call the guerrilla way. That is what I'd like to draw your attention to. And that way is based on two elements. One is a stellar profile, and the second is your connection strategy. This session is not going to deal with LinkedIn profile. So what I'll do is try to share in the chat a document you're welcome to check, and we'll go and discuss the other element. And that element is related to your connection strategy. If you pursue that action, you will proactively hunt down the hiring manager in your target company. What are the pros and cons of both methods? If you simply apply, it's very fast. The downside is that very few interviews will actually take place. If you use the guerrilla action that requires time, patience, and system, you'll either hear no or let's schedule an interview. This is why I think for job seekers, it's the best way going forward. A hero profile identifies someone who can be interviewed, and B, a connection strategy. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen. Wait a couple of seconds for it to show up. If there's any issue, Urvashi, please let me know. We mentioned both approaches. One is simply applying, and the second is having a good profile and knowing who to connect with. We mentioned the pros and cons of both, and now I'd like you to focus on the most important question. Who should you connect with and why? A question I would like you to consider is this. As a job seeker, as a talent, what is the best connection policy for you? One option is going for quantity. That means you basically reach 500 plus connection as soon as possible. You connect with recruiters, you connect with line, you connect with everyone you can, hoping to get a lot of exposure. The second way is to connect with people you know well and being able to introduce to the hiring manager. If you see the whole picture, I would like you to ask yourself this. If I needed to make a choice in 3 years' time, would I like to be the most connected or the best connected? Let me repeat the question. If you had to pick one, would you like to be the most connected or the best connected? And why is it that you have to make a choice? Let me show you why. I can run a simple search and find the hiring manager I'd like to work with, be it with AWS or Google or any other company. And the important thing about it is that when I see the second-degree contacts and I look at the names of the mutual connections, I'm able to reach out to those people and identify someone who can make an introduction. If I get a meaningful introduction to the hiring manager, what is it that I do? I bypass HR. I bypass recruiters, and I go to the top dog, the person who can say, yes, you're a good fit for us. This is why I call it the guerrilla way. What is the upside of quantity? Obviously, it's exposure. So let's say that when you share something on LinkedIn, maybe 2% will see it. What happens if I have 300 connections? Only 6 people see it. What happens if I have 30K? I have 30,000 connections. That means that whenever I share, those 2% become 600 people. And 600 is a lot. Listen carefully to what I'm going to say. What happens if I started my journey with 300 connections and I kept hearing that I needed to grow my network and I increased my network tenfold? So I would have not 300, but 3,000. How many more people will see my content? Only 54. Because I wanted to have it both ways. I wanted both quality and quantity. Trouble is, they're mutually exclusive. You cannot have it both ways. What is the benefit of connecting with people you know? It's trust. I can identify their hiring manager and get an introduction. What is the benefit of having a ton of connections? It's exposure. So when I say I'm sharing XYZ or I'm hiring ABC, many people will see it. What do you need as a job seeker? Is it exposure or is it trust? My understanding, and I've worked with job seekers for over a decade, is that trust is way, way more important than exposure. No one will hire simply because they saw a random post or new post about your capabilities. And have a look at what happens here when I try to aim for both. I don't have a lot of trust. I polluted or watered down the quality of my network, so I know I can no longer be introduced to the hiring manager. And on top of that, I gained only marginal exposure. So I'm going to say this very clearly. Exposure starts when you have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. If you have 2K, if you have 1,500, if you have 4,000, that's not considered exposure. So make up your mind. In 3 years' time, would you like to be the most connected or the best connected? And if you don't make up your mind, you'll be the worst connected. That is the single most important suggestion I have for you. If you try to aim to have your cake and eat it, you won't be successful. If you want to be a LinkedIn open networker, you can't stop in midzone. You have to reach 30,000 people. If you have questions about that, I'd like to touch them on them later, but now I'm going to ask or reformulate the question. Should you do what other people tell you to do? Should you do what other people are doing? Or should you do what is right? And if you'd like to be introduced to the hiring manager, my suggestion is very clear. You don't connect with people you know well. At this point, usually when I run workshops, all sorts of candidates, I say, okay, but what do I do with recruiters, right? What do I do with recruiters? So let me say this. Don't connect with recruiters because recruiters come with 10, 20, or 30,000 connections. So it's not wise for you to connect with those people. What is wise for you is to follow them. And another way to look at it is that if you get an incoming invitation from someone you don't know, there's a way around that. I'm going to share a secret link. This is it. And here are invitations I got. And what I could do is simply reply or click on message, and I'll extend that a bit. And here's my message. I don't have to connect with people I don't know. What I'll share with you in the chat is a link to a short 45-second, 55-second video enabling you to reply to incoming invitation. If the person who sent you the invitation is a headhunter and you're actively looking for work, this is what I would say. Thank you very much for asking to connect with you. When I look for my next position, it's going to be this type of position. Do you have anything in mind? Thank you very much. If the headhunter replies and says, yes, I have a client who's looking for someone like you, by all means, speak with them. If they don't, you don't have to pollute your network with headhunters you don't know. Very quickly, because I have probably no more than 2 minutes. So far, we discussed the important question of who should you connect with. If you're able to grasp some more, I'd like to speak about the timing. When is a good time for you to connect? And I'd like you to take a look at this graph. The x-axis at the bottom, the horizontal one, shows the number of connections we have. So if you open up a LinkedIn account, I opened mine in early 2004. We all start here in the lower left side. When we connect with 20 people, 200 people, 2K, we move to the right. What's important is to understand the other axis. How much information are we providing for the hiring manager or the recruiter for them to understand they need to reach out to us? And if you look at this, the best way for us as the job seekers is to move to number 4, quadrant 4 here. Why? The both elements that the quadrant number 4 offers are this. 1, exposure, and 2, conversion. Last question about this. If we had one way to do it, would it be wiser to move first to the right, connect with a ton of people, and then improve our profile? Or to move to the top, build an optimized profile for the hiring manager or the recruiter, and then scale the number of connections? I believe you would say first go up, first build a decent profile. But what LinkedIn does is actually encourage you to grow your number of connections without making sure your profile converts. So instead of moving right, move up. After your profile is optimized, feel free to send, connect, or accept with people like you fit based on your connection strategy. But don't connect with people before your profile converts, because this would be the same as me buying danielalfon.com. And when you run a search, the very top result on Google will say that page is under construction. We covered 2 questions. 1, who should you connect with? And 2, when should you connect with people? So this has been an amazing experience for me to see an Israeli conference that runs on time. And I'd like to be able to see if there are any questions or anything we can cover. Urvashi.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I see one question. Let me. Yeah, what is better from Emily Grace? What is better, having followers or connections on LinkedIn?
Great. So very quickly, LinkedIn has introduced the creator mode, and that means you can turn on the creator mode. That would enable you to have the default follow button instead of connecting with people. So when is that a good idea? I think many people should try playing with that, especially if you create content. Then having a creator mode is actually a good idea. I played with that. I think most people should play with that. LinkedIn is offering creators lots of extra stats and extra analytics. And that means that you will keep the number of connections you have, 20 or 20, no matter when. And the other people who visit your profile will be prompted to follow you instead of sending you an invitation request. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Next question is, how do I build connection with others?
Let's start with real life. You have a real life network, right? You have Ashok's team. You have people you work with. So this is where I would start. If you're a student, then you would start with your own co-students. If you've joined a company, then you have colleagues. You have 10, 20, 50 colleagues, people you've worked with, subordinates, suppliers, external suppliers, team members, everyone that you're working with. Some of those people will be on LinkedIn, and this is where I would start. And what would happen naturally is that when you gain more experience, you meet more people. You start working with another project, you move to another team, you serve another territory or tomorrow there's the tech job fairs in Denmark, right? So maybe you'll find other people to engage with and to work with there. You have a real life network, and that is reflected on LinkedIn. Start with your real life network.
Cool. Thank you so much. With that, we have to end this session. There's a time limit, but thank you so much once again for this wonderful presentation, and I'm sure a lot of people is getting a very helpful tip here for how to behave on LinkedIn especially. So thank you so much, and all the best everyone who is looking for a job, and hope that you can have a good connection on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Urvashi.
Thank you, Daniel.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.